They certainly will be. Trent Murray, good stuff. Good to see you. We go now to our national security correspondent, Carla Babb. She has some breaking news about a high-stakes meeting happening tomorrow on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference. Carla, tell us about it.
Hi, that's right, Bob and Edie. Ukrainian officials tell Newsmax Rubio and Zelensky will meet at 5 p.m. local time tomorrow to discuss how to end Russia's brutal war against Ukraine. Now, all eyes will be on these two men as we approach the 4-year mark since Russia illegally invaded Ukraine. I spoke with former NATO Secretary General Anders Fogh Rasmussen about how 2025 was the deadliest year yet for civilians, nearly 3,000 killed. And he said the reason was simple.
We have seen the deadliest year for Ukrainians because Putin does not want peace. And he wants to accelerate the attacks on Ukraine to force the Ukrainians on their knees to beg for peace on Russian terms.
This week, NATO stepped up in a big way with big changes. Remember Trump's threats to take Greenland from NATO ally Denmark, saying they couldn't protect the Arctic? Well, the alliance started a new mission to focus on Arctic security that includes continuous exercises in Greenland. Rasmussen told me he'd been trying for years to get an Arctic strategy off the ground, but couldn't get NATO allies to agree. And you know what, Edie, that's not all. NATO's European allies also agreed this week to take control over all the joint commands, including one based in the United States here in Norfolk. Rasmussen praised the changes and even gave President Trump a nod, along with Putin, for motivating NATO's increased defense spending. Let's listen.
We realize that after Putin's attack on Ukraine, we are all in danger in Europe. So we have to step up our defense efforts. So that's really the driving force. But I would also give President Trump credit for his harsh rhetorics. I don't think anybody can be in doubt that also the US wants us to invest more.
So all this is Trump says he really wants Greenland, telling reporters just a few hours ago that the U.S. is negotiating right now for the island. And this week he reposted an AI map showing Greenland and Canada, another NATO ally, as part of the United States. Now, Rasmussen said this is impossible.
It would, of course, be unheard if one ally, namely the U.S., militarily attacks another ally, namely Denmark, to grasp territory from that ally. That would be the end of NATO. I don't think Congress would accept that. No. Greenland is not for sale. And as all real estate agents know, if an estate is not for sale, it can be purchased.
So, Bob and Edie, European officials tell me they hope some agreement can be reached soon on Greenland to put this spat to rest. The main focus, European leaders told Rubio today, remains how to help Ukraine.
All right, Carla Babb, thank you very much. Joining us now to discuss this is former U.S. Ambassador to Denmark, Carla Sands. Thanks so much for being with us. What do you make of
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, what we've been hearing so far?
Yeah, it's pretty encouraging to see Secretary Rubio taking the message over that is I would say, the Trump administration's doctrine of Europe has to step up. They have to do more. They're rich countries, and they've been relying economically and militarily for too long on the United States. And I say economically because we have this huge trade block between the US and EU, over $1 trillion a year, huge trade. It's really important to both Europe and the United States. But Europe has had tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers on our goods. Now they're slow walking the trade deal because they're not happy with President Trump's tone. They need to get the trade deal in place. And President Trump is working to get reciprocity, so that our goods can go into Europe, just like European goods flow into the United States. And then NATO, that's the other big thing. The world's most powerful security cooperation. It's rock solid. President Trump has made it stronger than when he went into office in his first term.
Ambassador, kind of building off what you just said here, a NATO without the United States given their current conditions and what they've invested in defense and what they've, you know, the way they have shaped up their defense over in that region, what is it without the United States, NATO?
Well, it doesn't function without the United States. Every country, with maybe the exception of France, maybe Finland, needs the United States if they're going to prosecute a war. They just don't have the capabilities. And Article 3 of the NATO Charter says that every NATO ally has the ability to defend their own territory. And that is the rub. When President Trump says we need to secure Greenland, we need to control Greenland, it's because Denmark has not the capacity or the interest to develop or to defend or secure Greenland.
Could they ever? Could they ever?
North America. No, they could never. They have a tiny economy. And that's when we hear about Europe or Anders Fogh Rasmussen, whose son is an American citizen, who just spoke before, the issue is that Europe and the US, our economies together are like 25x Russia's economy. It's a very small economy in comparison. And yet, Europe talks about the threat of Russia and never about China. The trade with China, they're still moving, manufacturing to China and ending, whether it's pharmaceutical precursors, or in Germany, still moving factories and production to China, where last year they closed 24,000 businesses. So Europe's engine is failing, and that is part of what President Trump and Marco Rubio are working to shore up to get Europe stronger so it can stand on its feet.
Okay. Ambassador Carla Sands, it's a pleasure. You have a great weekend.
Great to
Thanks
be
for
with
coming
you.
on.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely.